Joey. Nice to see you all here today. I'm very excited to be in the Mentimeter building. I'm a bit of a fangirl. That's great. A little bit about my background. I am a social worker by training in the systems level. I can talk more about what that means later if you want to know more. And I've worked across all age spectrums. I've worked with children, I've worked with young people, young adults, I've worked with professionals, and now in the aged care world. I'm working for an aged care provider, homemade sport, just up the street, was not long to get here, and learning a lot about being in that new sphere of impact. So my goal of today is to talk to you about how you can model authenticity, there we go, empathy and humanity as a facilitator, as a trainer, as a presenter, and why and how this builds psychological safety and aligns really well with trauma-informed and healing-centered practices. So I just kind of threw a lot of terms out there, I recognize that. So I'm gonna get a little gauge on the room real quick. Raise your hand if you've heard about psychological safety. Okay, I had a feeling I would see a lot of hands on that one. What about trauma-informed or healing-centered practice? A few of them. All right, for those of you who had your hand up, on a scale of 1 to 5 with your fingers, 1 being not much, 5 being you're the expert here actually, how familiar are you with and how knowledgeable do you feel about trauma-informed or healing-centered practice? I thought I saw 5 and I was like, come on up, let's go. Sweet. Well, unfortunately, I only have 5 minutes, so we're not going to do a whole course on that. But I am going to give you just a broad overview of what trauma is, what healing-centered practice can look like, and ways that you're probably already doing it. So, little definition, and I'm really going to read this one. Trauma is the psychological and neurobiological effect of an event or a series of events that leave a person feeling overwhelming fear, stress, hopelessness, horror, lots of different things there, okay? Trauma can impact how someone thinks, how they feel, how they respond to the world around them, even long after the event occurs. So, for some context here, 3 out of 4 Australian adults have experienced some form of trauma in their life. So, guaranteed, every room you are in, every setting you're in, you and or the people around you have maybe experienced some sort of trauma and are carrying that response with you in how you're engaging with the world. We don't know what that looks like for everyone. We don't need to know what that looks like for everyone. We don't need to know what happened either, right? We just need to know that we want to be able to hold a space that they can feel encouraged, supported, and safe to engage. So we need to understand that trauma-informed and healing-centered practice is actually just understanding and responding to these impacts, and that they're going to present in different ways for different people. You need to understand the impacts of trauma in order to create psychological safety. So why does this matter? We've talked about this is kind of a lot of people, it could be anyone in the room, right? It's going to be your group. The key principles of creating a supportive, trauma-informed, and healing-centered environment are safety, trustworthiness, choice, collaboration, and empowerment. So I'm going to give you a few practical tips, and none of them are new. You are probably already doing most of them, but I want to give you a new lens to think about them and do them with more intentionality. So this is a way that you can then understand how they contribute to creating a trauma-informed and healing-centered environment. Number 1, humanize yourself, right? Start off with a quick off-the-cuff comment. These are never planned. I got asked to come on stage here and I was like, I'm gonna talk about being on stage. That's fun, right? That makes you more relatable. People can connect to you. You're building trust, right? Model imperfection. Messing up is okay. Actually encouraged. Perfection isn't how people relate to you and feel safe. And when you do mess up or when something happens, laugh at yourself. People can relate to that. It lets people relax. You know, studies have shown that just smiling can help you relax. So get yourself to laugh, get others to laugh. That can really create a safe space. I invite you to unpack what you believe is professional. This is a whole other talk, but professionalism maintains systemic inequalities and masks biases. That's for another day, but think about your beliefs around professionalism, perfection, and how that might actually be upholding systems that aren't creating welcoming spaces or trauma-informed spaces for anyone. Another thing to do, set expectations. We all have ways that we invite people into a room and say, hey, here's how I'd like you to participate today. If you have questions, please raise your hand, use the Mentimeter, blah, 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 right? We need to make sure that we're also acknowledging the real life interruptions, right? People are coming as their whole selves. Nobody is gonna show up to work or into your talk, your facilitated event without their whole self. That's actually not possible, right? I show up and I am me. So we need to normalize that. We need to acknowledge it and say, hey, if you need to take this time, you need to step out. I love what you did in the beginning. You're like, hey, in the back, if you need to go stand back there, get a little more space, you're invited to do it, right? I also, really appreciate you brought your kids here today. That is a real part of who you are and what your life is, and that this space allows you to do so is important and makes it a space that you can actually engage. Thank you for bringing your kids along. This is empowering when you let people show up as their whole selves. They're more likely to engage fully, right? And last thing is offer choice in all different ways. We don't need to tell people what to do. We can ask them what they would like to do, right? Provide multiple ways to engage, all of the different ways. Give the pass option for activities. Giving people choice is one of the key tenets of trauma-informed practice. When somebody has a trauma response, that's often because choice was taken away from them. So we do not want to do that in any of our settings. We don't want to take that choice away. This also encourages collaboration when people feel like they have a little agency, right? All of these things tie together in a really positive way. So, in summation, modeling authenticity, humanity, right, showing up as your whole self, helps your participants feel safe, supported, and empowered, and to really fully engage in the space you're holding. Your small choices have a really big impact on creating trauma-informed and healing-centered spaces. So, food for thought that I'm going to leave you with: how do you show up authentically and with empathy as your whole self? Thank you.